Hello, this is your host, Christina from Savvy Radio. Thank you for joining us for our Heartbeat of the World video series, where we're bringing you some of the top experts around the globe to talk about some of the greatest challenges facing our country and the world. Our guest today is Dr. John DeGarmo, author of several books, including the highly inspirational book, Fostering Love, One Foster Parent's Journey. Dr. DeGarmo is a dynamic speaker and informative trainer on the foster care system and travels extensively meeting with foster parents, child welfare workers, churches, schools, and organizations. Find out more about Dr. DeGarmo and his work at drjohndegarmofostercare.weebly.com. Hi, John. Welcome back to Savvy Business Radio. And now you're here for our Heartbeat of the World video series. I'm so grateful to have you here today. You are a wonderful man helping children around the United States get wonderful homes in foster care and also help families who are interested in becoming foster care parents. It's been known for quite a few years in the United States that the foster care system often has some issues and is broken in certain areas. And you've been working really hard to help both people in the government area as well as the parents become awesome homes for children in need. So before we go to all of that, share with our audience who might have missed our first interview a little bit about your background. What brought you to the whole realm of working in foster care?
Oh, thanks for asking. And thank you for the opportunity. It really started many, many years ago. I never really wanted to be a foster parent. It was never on my radar. Never thought about it. Married my wife from Australia, and we were living there for a number of years. And our first child died of a condition called anencephaly, or some pronounce it anencephaly. It's a condition where the brain never really forms. And my wife was in labor for 92 hours, and when the baby died, my wife and I both grieved, but she did it in a healthy fashion. I didn't. I really turned my back on a lot of things. I was just full of anger and bitterness. It wasn't until years later when we moved back to America and 3 healthy children, and I was teaching in a rural high school, poverty, and I kept noticing a similarity occurring in my classroom. Lots of the students were coming in, and they had absences and behavior issues and academic issues, and I kept thinking, why is this? What is the problem? And then I met some of their birth parents, and I realized, it starts in the home. It really starts in the home. Yeah. So I approached my wife and said, hey, we've lost our first child. How can we help more? And so that led to fostering and the doctorate and the books. And I've really devoted every aspect of my life to helping children in need across the nation.
Wow. And this is that makes so much sense to me. When I was a kid in high school, my parents got divorced. And I'd always been a really awesome student. And with all the trauma and stress at home, it really started to affect my grades. I didn't act out as some kids might, but I was not getting good grades. I was not present. And I was all consumed with what was going on at home with the divorce. And I'm sure a lot of kids go through that. And it must be even more traumatic when you are being tossed from foster care place to foster care place. And why is it so hard sometimes to find kids proper homes? Or is it really difficult to find a good match?
Well, let's go back to what you touched on earlier. When the child is placed in foster care, 55% of children in foster care will drop out of school. School is often the last place they want to be. They're more focused. They're not focused on their math or their spelling or their science. They're focused on survival, just survival. And unfortunately, when they bounce from home to home to home, they fall further and further and further behind in school. So they leave school. But why is it difficult for them to find, right now in America, there are more children being placed in foster care than in a very, very long time. At the same time, there are less foster parents. I just wrote an article for the Huffington Post called The Foster Care Crisis in America, and it is a crisis right now because so many children are being placed in, yet there's not enough places for them to go. That's why my wife and I have had up to 11 children living at the same time in our house because there's not enough homes for these kids.
Wow. And it's very sad because I've talked to people who are, middle-aged, my age, and they desire children, but for some reason, one reason or another, they're not able to have their own children. And today there are options from even adopting a child from birth who, because a lot of people can't carry a child, raise it for whatever reason. And so that's an option, but there's also the foster care option, which I don't think really gets looked at by a lot of people who desire a child so badly. With all these people who really want to be a family and can't have their own children, this would be a perfect way for them to help children in need as well as, raise a child.
No, I agree 100%. We've actually adopted 3 children from the foster care system.
Yeah.
So, we got the benefits of not only having the children come and live with us for part of the time, but make it permanent members as well, members of our family as well. But, there's something I don't want to confuse the issue here. Every child that comes to my house, there's no label, there's no biological, there's no adoptive, there's no foster. We actually have 2 homeless youth in our house right now. Right now, there's no homeless. They're all my children, and they all become members of my family.
Oh, that's fabulous. And that's one part. And when my parents got divorced, one thing I felt was missing, we weren't a really strong family unit where we really connected with each other even before we got divorced. I mean, I think often the divorce is a symptom of what's been going on for a long time. But what I found fabulous is I found a kind of foster family in high school that adopted me kind of into their family, where every Sunday I would come over and they'd invite me for dinner. And that was the most precious time of my week, to spend it at a table with the family where I was treated like one of their daughters, and my opinion mattered. They wanted to hear what was going on in school and tell me about what's important to you. I mean, it's just so important for a developing child to be able to have that.
Absolutely right. Every child needs to feel that they're wanted, and every child deserves to have someone to love them. And so you're very, very fortunate to have that family. So many children do not have anybody that will pay any type of positive attention. All the attention that's given them is very, very negative, whether it's abuse or verbal, emotional, sexual abuse, abandonment, neglect, whatever it may be.
Yeah. And we talked about that. That's why we're having you back, as we had a guest recently who talked about sex trafficking with children. And he was talking about sex trafficking in his country, but actually it happens quite often here, as well as prostitution, even for a lot of kids who end up in foster care, run away. And we wanted to really kind of bring that here and see what we could do as a citizenry around the United States to make the problem better. Now, let's start by why the problem exists. Why is there so much abuse going on in foster care homes?
Well, I don't think the abuse is necessarily going on in the foster care homes. Every child that comes into, let me rephrase that.
Okay.
So many children that come into foster care home. Well, before I was a foster parent, I thought that if a child came into my home as a foster child, they'd be happy. But that's the exact opposite. These children do not want to be in my home. I can offer them all the stability, the security, the nutrition, the love, and all the fantastic opportunities. But at the end of the day, I'm not their father. I'm not their norm. My wife's not their mom. Their norm, however horrific it may be, is still their normal life. So it takes some time for these children to come into the home. And, they always want to go back to mommy or daddy, however horrible that might be. So for many of these children, they're going online looking for love. Kids in foster care have no control over any aspect of their life. They don't have a control if someone comes into their house, a social worker, a police officer, late at night and takes them from everything that they know, including their family members, and place them into a strange home with strange people. They don't have control of the schools they go to. They feel they only have control with one thing, and that is their online persona. When they go online and they develop their own line persona. And they also go online looking for what they want the most, and that is for someone to love them. And that's where the child predators come in. These child sex predators know that these children are so vulnerable, and that these children want someone to say, "You matter, I love you." So they fill these children with false promises and false hopes, and they lure them in, and these children run away from wonderful foster homes and go to somebody who's giving them all these false promises, and then they're sucked into that horrible, horrible life of child sex trafficking. By far, the majority of kids in child sex trafficking in America are either current or former children from foster care, because again, they're so vulnerable and they're looking for someone to give them the love that they're seeking.
Wow, that is so disheartening. And recently, I think I told you, I heard a program where this investigator came on to talk about how many kids who'd either run away from home, either foster care or otherwise. Sometimes it was abusive homes from, their natural parents, and they decided I had enough. They'd leave looking for that thing that is so important that we all want, which is love. And they found it in the wrong places, and with sexual predators or pimps who said, I'll love you, you'll be valuable here, you just have to do something. And then now their lives are completely destroyed, because how do you rework yourself back into society after having lived as a prostitute or as a sex trafficking in sex trafficking, it's hard to go back to real life. One mother said, I finally got my kid back, but it's like a shell of a person, and I'm trying to love her back to health, but how do I even do that? And that must be even harder for someone who isn't their biological parent. What have you instructed or helped parents through when it comes to situations like this?
No, it's tragic. It is so tragic for those children. Many kids can't escape the child sex trafficking. Those that do are very, very fortunate. But so many can't because they're brainwashed into believing that this person really does love them, or they're threatened with their lives or with the lives of their siblings or their parents by the pimps, by the predators. But for those children that do go back, the biggest attribute that the parent needs, whether it's an adoptive, foster, or biological parent, is that of time, because it is going to take immense amount of time for these children to heal. And it's not something the parents can bring to the child. There has to be therapy for these children. There has to be therapy. I've had over 50 kids come through my home and live in my home, and I know that I can't help every child. There's some things that I just can't do. And that's why therapy and counseling is so important for these children. But for some of these kids, it may take years or even the rest of their life for them to truly heal from the wounds. That old saying, sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me. Yeah. You know that's a lie. And these kids have been pounded down with vicious verbal abuse or the sexual abuse that goes, into the soul of the person.
We'll be right back after these messages.
Think back to when you started your business. You had a dream. You had boundless passion. You wanted to create something different. There was a problem, and you were going to solve it. Being an independent retailer is rewarding, but challenging, and there's a lot more to it than you ever imagined. Well, Lightspeed is here to help. With 45,000 customers around the world, we've helped countless entrepreneurs nail the business side of retail so they can spend time doing what they're passionate about. Join us for a 6-week speaker series featuring a curated panel of experts that will answer some of retail's toughest questions and give you the edge you need to stay competitive. You have a passion, and we have a passion for technology inspired by you. Visit lightspeedhq.com/speaker-series to learn more.
It's horrible. And I think it makes sense to me what you're saying, John, because you're too close to the problem as a parent, even if you're not a biological parent, to really be able to give them the psychological help they need to pull their way out of this hole. It really needs to be a third party that can just come in and see it from an outside perspective and help them work through it, as well as the willingness and readiness of the person who's gone through it to really relinquish and let go and work through it, because it's going to be a difficult process.
Right. And many times there has to be there can be either single therapy or family therapy. I've spent many a therapeutical session with some of the children in my home, them, and sometimes not. But yeah, it's just tragic. And I don't think that most of America realizes the extent of child sex trafficking that is happening in the United States. It is happening in our cities. It is happening in our neighborhoods. There are some statistics out there that will point to the fact that there are 300,000 kids in America each year who are victims of child sex trafficking, which is a tremendous number. And do you know when the biggest time of child sex trafficking in America is?
No.
Week of the Super Bowl. The week of the Super Bowl, because that's when you have all the entertainers and the athletes and people coming from all corners of the globe to that location. So wherever the Super Bowl is each year, that's going to be the biggest center of child sex trafficking in America each year.
Wow. And this is, it's quite appalling to me. The idea that someone would sleep with a 12-year-old or 13-year-old that could, in essence, be the grandchild or child of these people they're sleeping with. It sounds absurd that anyone could even do that sort of thing. But what can citizens start to do to change it in this country? Because, for the ones that can't even fathom it exists, there must be a way we can start to change this.
Well, you said 12 years old. We had a 4-year-old girl in the house recently, about a year ago, who was raped over and over and over again by her grandfather. And he was actually their biological father, because he had been raping his own daughter to produce children. And the realities of so many children in our nation. What can people do? First of all, they need to become aware. They need to accept the fact this is really happening. And, you know, I live an hour south of Atlanta, Georgia. Atlanta, Georgia is a hub of child sex trafficking because you have the airline, the major airport there, and predators from around the world will fly in, spend an hour with the child and the pimp, and then fly back out to their respective homes before they're even caught. And that's what's happening all over. So awareness, I truly believe awareness equals advocacy, because when someone accepts the fact that, oh my goodness, this is happening, what can I do to stop it? And that's when you start to learn to recognize the signs and you recognize the places it happens. Truck stops, bus stations, airports are major activities of child sex trafficking. And then you can begin campaigns to bring an end to it. So, but first of all, I think awareness is the most important thing. Recognize the signs, understand that it's happening probably right where you live.
Yeah.
And then making a determined effort to say, you know what, I'm going to stop this where I live.
It seems to me also, once you become aware, is really getting the police force involved to really bring down these hubs of sex trafficking from within somehow, you know, to bring down these pimps. So if the pimps don't exist, they can't be, you know, sending out the call girls. Maybe I'm wrong, but what is your take on that, and how to, you know, really stop it from happening?
Well, I believe that police and law enforcement across the nation are really keyed into this, and they are making it a major effort. Each year I read at the Super Bowl. In fact, I think I read this year that over 100 girls, 100 children were rescued from child sex predators at the Super Bowl event. Over 100. That's the ones that were rescued. How about the ones that were not? So they're making concerted efforts to do it, but they can't do it by themselves. You know, child sex trafficking happens because of this. There is the desire out there for someone to do this. You know, you have to stop that. You've got to stop the predator from doing that. And why do they? So why are people turning to child sex predating instead of selling drugs?
Yeah,
it's because of the simple reason: a child can be raped 10, 12 times a day, 7 days a week. More money, more money, more money, and they're not putting money into that. They don't have to purchase the drug to sell the drug for more. So that child is just an endless stream, sadly, tragically, horrifically, of an income for somebody.
Wow. But then again, also what appalls me is that there's people who want to contribute, because there's the supply and demand thing for anything you sell, and that there's actually people who want to demand for this sick, perverted,
Yeah. It's heinous. It's absolutely heinous.
I can't even believe it exists, but it does. And I'm so glad you're here to help people become aware of it. Now, if you should become a foster parent who you find out that your foster care child had been raped or whatever part of sexual predator of it, how, besides, you know, sending them to an outside therapy, is there anything you can do to help them through the process on a day-to-day basis at home?
Well, again, you got to be very, very compassionate. Very, very understanding. Understand that this is going to take time. Understand that this child is full of emotional angst, and they may withdraw, they may lash out, they may put their hands up, put emotional barriers up. You've got to be understanding the fact that this is going to happen. And just because a child's home and you're providing the child love, they're not going to accept it. You know, we've had so many kids come through my own home who really don't know what unconditional love in a healthy fashion looks like. And that's so sad. You know, I think that I have right here my phone. So many parents don't understand the fact that child predators are reaching out to these children right here. And that's why it is important. When I speak across the nation on this topic, I tell people, if you want to stop it from ever happening in your house, you have to monitor your child's online behavior, their tablet, their computer, their phone, every single evening.
Yeah.
Every day. And you know, I'm not my child's friend.
Yeah.
I'm their parent. And I'm not invading their privacy by looking through here. I am protecting my child from harm from somebody who is seeking that child out, or my child is seeking that person out.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, this is great advice for any parent, whether you are a parent of foster care children or adoptive children or just children, period. Because I saw a movie recently where this child was living in a very loving home. She was with her biological parents, and she got hooked into playing on the internet, and she started to become a persona. You know, these teenagers, what the cool part and the bad part about the internet is we can become anything on the internet. We can put out any persona we want on the internet. We even have this thing called Second Life, where you can become a character and you just make up these characters that go around this kind of illusion life that this fantasy life, and you get to create this character and live it in a digital world. Well, what becomes dangerous about this is that other people are there, and there could be predators there that are feeding on your children. And yeah, absolutely. I hear kids say more than ever, including parents, well, my kid needs his cell phone and I don't want to invade his privacy. And what would we do without cell phone? Honestly, I don't think anyone under the age of like 13 or 14 even needs a cell phone, because I grew up without them, and I did not have any major catastrophes where I couldn't pick up a normal phone and call my mom without having a cell phone. So they're not necessary to keep us safe. We did just fine before without them, both of us.
Right. People say, what if my car breaks down? Who am I going to call? Well, when our ancestors crossed the country in a wagon and their wagon wheel broke, what did they do? So it's not a necessity for a child. It's a convenience. It's a convenience. And I agree with you. Our age is 13 in our house. 13 is when you can have a phone, and that is if you're mature enough to handle it. Right?
Yes. And if you're using it in an improper way, I would totally take it away from my child, because it's like, no, this is meant for emergencies, not 10,000 texts in 1 month.
Go outside and play.
That's right. John, I kind of find it sad that I've gone into some restaurants and there's toddlers in their high chair, and they throw them an iPad to play with. I'm like, how about talking to the child, paying some attention to him? Because I'm kind of nervous about future generations living through their technological devices. Will they be able to really communicate and connect with other human beings? It's a little scary.
Well, they can't. As a former teacher who taught English, I can tell you the English language is destroyed.
Wow.
Because of this. Grammar is shot because people are typing in shorthand. And children today do not know how to socialize. They can't look somebody in the eye for long enough conversation because they're too busy doing this.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know how to have a one-on-one conversation with people. And I think our future generations are going to look, well, it's concerning, that's for sure.
Yeah. It is. But it's not too late. We can do something about it with our children at home right now by limiting how much devices they use and allowing to find different ways and creative ways to get out there and move and enjoy life for real, not just in front of some device or TV or something like that. Because I think when we grew up, it was more about our parents putting us in front of the TV if they needed a break. But yeah, there's different ways and more healthier ways to get out there and be a child.
Absolutely right. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah. Well, I don't want us to leave without everyone finding out where they can find out more about you. And if they're a parent who are either considering foster care or are foster parents and need to find out more information, how can they do that?
Oh, thanks for asking. Just Google my name, Dr. John DeGarmo, foster care, or Google the Foster Care Institute, and my information will come up there. And even if people are considering being a foster parent or no, they can't do it, because I understand not everybody can be a foster parent, but everybody can help. I truly believe a child in foster care in some way. There's over 450,000 kids in America in the foster care system, and not enough people who are willing to say, I want to help. Every one of us can help a child in foster care in some way, and my website is full of information like that.
Yeah, and to realize many of my past girlfriends want dearly to be parents, and this is the way you can be a parent and help a child raise into a wonderful adult and help them through that process. And there's a way for you to be a mom and a dad. But one thing I want to stress here, I know we mentioned this in our first interview, that often foster parents or adoptive parents will be like, why aren't the kids calling me mom and dad? It's because you have to realize if they ever do, it's their choice, because you're not really their biological mom and dad.
Right. Yeah. It is. I'll be honest. It's the hardest thing I've done. It's the most rewarding thing I've done. Every child that's come through my home has made me a better person in some way. But again, these are children who have suffered tremendous abuse, anxieties, traumas, and they just are looking for someone to say, I will love you. But sometimes it can be hard, but it is glorious.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, John. I thank you so much for coming back to Savvy to share this very important wisdom and information today on Savvy Business Radio and our Heartbeat of the World video series. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
After 5 years of creating exciting business content with amazing businesses from around the world, Savvy is now creating a new video series entitled Heartbeat of the World. This series will feature experts from around the globe. We will highlight and discuss some of the greatest challenges facing the U.S. and the world. Co-create with us and find out more at bit.ly/SavvyPatron.
Savvy Business Radio, and runs in syndication on 8 AM/FM stations nationwide. including iHeartRadio and 6 podcasting platforms. To find out about our paid sponsorship opportunities or to become a guest and find out how we can help you get your message out in a bigger way, call 732-474-7375 or email Christina@savvybusinessradio.com.